Joining me live now is the New South Wales Treasurer Daniel Mookhey. As he promised last week when we spoke to him, Daniel Mookhey, thanks so much for your time. First of all, I just want to ask you a bit of a broader question here. The budget books don't really look as bad as you made them out to be.
Well, we've done a pretty good job of stabilising the state's finances. We've managed to reduce gross debt by $14 billion, net debt by $10 billion, which is the lowest reduction achieved without privatisation. We've saved $2.3 billion in our interest payments. I said to you last week, Laura, that we were looking for ways in which we could fix our state's finances without affecting service delivery for people of New South Wales. I think the numbers that we released yesterday showed how we did that.
Also, there's not a lot on cost of living relief, whilst you're also banking this small surplus. I know you're not shouting that from the hilltops, but it kind of makes the point. Are you doing enough in that area?
Yeah, I mean, I think our strategy when it comes to this cost of living crisis is twofold. Firstly, to provide immediate relief right now, and secondly, to pair it with long-term reform. I think a good way of people understanding that is when it comes to tolls. We are introducing a weekly toll cap of $60 for 2 years from January next year, but we're pairing it with reform. We've got Australia's toughest customer, Alan Fells, spearheading that work. We've done a same approach when it comes to energy. We've done a similar approach when it comes to housing.
You've got a huge wages bill, Treasurer. Are you just looking after your union mates?
No, we are solving the critical shortages that are affecting so many of our public services. And just on Monday, it came to light, for example, that we have more than 1,000 vacancies in the New South Wales Police Force. We do need to attract more people in our child protection system to look after the state's most vulnerable children. We are needing more healthcare workers, everybody from a hospital cleaner to a nurse. I mean, right now, anyone who I think is visiting a classroom in New South Wales or has a kid in a classroom knows that we're dealing with a teacher shortage. If we continue to do what we did for the last 10 years, then all that's going to happen is that shortage is going to get worse.
I mean, if you're giving pay rises to everyone, is this wages bill going to blow out more and more over the next couple of years?
No, we're delivering what we said we would during the election, which is firstly, we want to have an industrial relations system here in New South Wales that fosters cooperation, isn't based on confrontation. Secondly, we are looking for system reforms that allow us to redirect resources. The agreement we reached in respect to our teachers is a good example of that being applied in practice.
Well, there was a fair bit of confrontation on that one, wasn't there? Fair bit of confrontation.
Yeah, there's robust discussion is the way I prefer to put it, Laura.
Right.
But I would say, of course, you'd expect that level of. We are, as we said we would before the election, we are having some pretty tough conversations with our workforce too, but we're doing so in a respectful manner. It's yielded a good result for the people of New South Wales. What we did do in the budget is we put some clear fiscal parameters around that. We have set aside $3.6 billion to support the introduction of that new system, and we are looking forward to being able to work with our workforce to deliver a better result for the people of New South Wales and for them.
Okay, let's talk housing, because before we saw the budget handed down yesterday, you wanted us to believe that housing was the centrepiece of this budget. If all homes that you're promising won't be built until 2040, can we really say it's the centrepiece?
Well, it's a $2.2 billion package that we unveiled yesterday. Most of that is about making sure that people have the critical local infrastructure they need for the houses to come. And I think one of the big complaints people have been right to have is that the homes arrive before the footpaths do. You can't get the key to your house unless there is a street to connect to your driveway. And so what we announced yesterday is the state doing its responsibility of putting that infrastructure in place so the private sector can get on with the job of building more homes. And equally, we are sending a big message by returning Landcom to the housing market, a publicly owned company showing what the public, what we can do for the public, especially when it comes to public land. So we're looking forward to working more. Of course there's more to do. Of course there's more to do. We're not denying that for a second.
Maybe this is your first budget. This is the first Labor budget in New South Wales in a decade. Isn't it fair to expect that perhaps we were expecting a little bit more out of housing? It is an absolute crisis at the moment, and this budget doesn't seem to even touch the sides short term.
Well, I disagree. Obviously, there is a lot to do. We did outline $615 million to get more social housing built. We've injected $224 million to deal with the acute pressure our social housing agencies, as well as the state's homelessness services, are under. That is money that hasn't been put in before. In addition to that, we are sending a very clear signal about how we intend to do this a bit differently, especially by using our publicly owned company Landcom.
Sure, but we need more than signals at this point, Mr Mookhey. When you look at the crisis and the people lining up for rentals around this country, them sleeping in their cars is becoming more and more common. There's something you can do short term. Are you looking to see what's going on in Victoria? I do note that Byron Bay Shire is putting a limit on Airbnbs in that area, a huge Airbnb market, but it's waiting for approval from your government. Why hasn't that happened, and can't this be rolled out to other areas?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I'll obviously look into what Byron Bay has asked for, but yeah, we are looking at what Victoria has proposed yesterday. What is happening in Victoria is similar to what's happening in New South Wales, which is similar to what's happening in places like California, Spain, London as well, where all across the world we are seeing long-term rentals being pulled from the market and short-term rentals taking their place. I obviously want to get a bit more data about what's happening here in New South Wales in that respect, but yeah, we are looking at what the Victorians have proposed. It's very similar to what happens right now in New York. It was very similar to what happens right now in places like San Francisco and Los Angeles. So we are going to study these examples because we do understand that this is a factor. That is the reason why some of the rental stock in New South Wales is disappearing.
Yeah.
We do need to put more rental stock. There's not that much we can do in the short term. This is definitely something that we want to see it roll out in Victoria and see what effect it has.
Yeah, I know this will come under the Premier, this will come under the Planning Minister as well, so it doesn't all fall on your shoulders, Treasurer, but when you say you're looking at it, how quickly? I mean, this is something that can be done quickly. Obviously, there are unintended consequences here. You want to be careful of that, but can you give us a timeline?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we want to have those conversations pretty quickly, and I've got to say we've already got a bit of work underway in looking at the short-term rental impacts on our rental market. It is something which the Treasury has started some work on, and we are looking forward to engaging with Airbnb and incidentally a lot of other people, especially in the rental sector, to see whether or not more reform can be delivered in this space.
Okay, so timeline, next couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, look, we have to do the homework. I mean, one thing this government does do is we do our homework. We are pretty calm and methodical about how we did that. I think it's important in order to carry people along the reform pathway there. So we are going to do our homework when it comes to this particular question and other questions that we have to do. But I take your point, Laura. Like, I mean, there is a huge rental issue here. It does take time to build new rental stock. It does take time to build new homes. We do need to look at what short-term measures we can adopt right now so we can put a bit more back into the rental market to take some pressure off the state's renters.
Okay, have we covered everything, Treasurer?
Laura, always, and you know I'm always happy to come on.